So we're going to be talking about transformations of quadratic functions in this case, or in this worksheet. We all should know vertex form. What is vertex form? Y equals, don't forget about A, and we're talking about vertex form, not the vertex formula, right? Y equals x minus h squared plus k. You guys are comfortable with this, right? Vertex form. Why do they call this vertex form? Why do they call it vertex form? Because you can see the vertex, all right? What is the vertex? Well, we all know the vertex is a coordinate, but you don't have to do any math to get this vertex. What's a vertex? Simply h and k. So your h value and your k value give you the x and y value of your vertex. So whatever is inside the parentheses with x, you're going to have to think opposite of what you see there. Because of the minus sign right here, you have to think opposite of h. And the k, because it's a plus sign right here, you just take it for what it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we look at number one, we could say that the hk value, first of all, this is backwards. So the first thing to do would be to switch the x and the 10. Let me zoom in and let's switch the x and the 10. So there it is. It's switched x right here, 10 right there instead of 10 and x. It's still to the second power. I left a blank spot right here because what belongs right here? What letter? The a value, okay? And I changed the g of x to y. It's the same thing. The k value is what? It's technically a plus 0 back here, right? So if I asked you, what's the vertex of this thing? The vertex would be negative 10, comma, 0. Excellent. That is your vertex, okay? How about the a value? Could anybody tell me something about the a value? What's the a value? A value is 1, right? So what does that mean that the a value is 1? What does that tell you? Like if I had an actual xy plane, does this parabola, what does the a value of 1 tell you?
Like minimum and maximum, or the way it's wide?
It actually tells you minimum, maximum. It also tells you whether it's wide or narrow. The a value of 1 is a regular U-shaped curve. Whenever you have the a value of 1, you could use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. We know that that's not too wide, it's not too narrow. It's a nice, beautiful U-shaped curve. But is the vertex right here at 0, 0? No, we said it was negative 10, 0. So in reality, the vertex is not here. It's at negative 10, 0, right? Way over here. So like, let me zoom in on this. Let's say this is negative 10 over here. And negative 10, 0 would be right here on the x-axis. So we know it's opening up, and the coordinate or the pattern would be 1 over 1 up. So it'd be like that. Then you go 2 over 4 up. So we have this parabola reflected onto the other side. That's what the parabola would look like. So just by looking at the equation, we get a good idea of where the parabola is at. Okay, now we might have, on the final exam, they're going to give you something like this original function, and they're going to say graph it. And of course, you can't really graph it, but you have to look at the different multiple choice options, and it's going to be the one that has a parabola way far to the left, regular U-shaped curve, right? So on this section, what they want you to do is talk about the transformations that the original parent graph goes through. So the original parent graph, let me draw it in blue. The original parent graph would be y equals x squared, which has a vertex at 0, 0, and it opens up like that, right? That's the original parent graph. So what happened here, or it got translated 10 units to the left. That's it. That's the only transformation. It got shifted 10 units to the left, right? It didn't get reflected over the x-axis. That would be a negative a. It didn't get vertically stretched, made it narrower, or it didn't get vertically compressed, wider. That would be a change in the a value. It didn't move up or down. It didn't shift up or down because the k value was 0. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, I'll tell you this right now. This is very big in Algebra 2. It's not big on the final. The only good thing in this section for the final is when they ask you to graph, knowing the a value, knowing the h and k value, you should be able to identify your vertex. and you should be able to identify the correct graph on your multiple choice answers. So what if I asked you, does this parabola open up or down? Really? Is this in the correct order? No, right? So let's rewrite it in the correct order before we even talk about what it looks like. So it's going to be y equals x squared minus 2/5, right? Okay, so now tell me, does this have an a value? Yes, it does. What is the a value? 1. What does that tell you about the parabola? It opens up. That's right. Okay. Does it have an h value? Remember, the h is inside parentheses with x. Does it have an h value? It does not. So your h value is 0. How about your k value? What's your k value? Negative 2/5, right? So knowing your h and k, now you actually know your vertex. What's your vertex? 0, negative 2/5. Now what does that mean? That means that your original parent graph that was at the origin 0, 0, what happened to the vertex? What happened to the entire parabola? Did it get shifted to the left? Does it get shifted to the right? Or what happens? Does it get shifted up or down? What do you guys think?
Down.
It gets shifted down. Why? Because the vertex is not going to be at 0, 0 anymore. The vertex is going to be at 0, negative 2/5. That's just slightly down. So the whole parabola gets shifted slightly down. Does that make sense? Now, this is just so you could understand it, and especially on the final multiple choice, you'll be able to identify your correct answer just by understanding how the a value affects it and how the h and k value affect it. The h and k value, your vertex value, ultimately shifts your parabola around. Yeah? So, like this matching portion right here, that's a good way to prepare yourself for this section on the final exam. Let's take a look at this graph, and this graph, right? And then compare it with 7, 8, or 9. We need to match which one belongs to which. So how about this? Look at number 7. What is the a value? What is the a value on number 7? A value is negative 3. Whoops. So your a value is negative 3. Now what does that tell you guys? That it's going to open down, right? Yay? Now what else does it tell you? The value 3, is it going to be a regular U-shaped curve, or is it going to be wider, or is it going to be narrower? Narrower, right? So here's my xy plane. So far I know that it opens down because of the negative sign. The actual 3 makes it narrow, pretty narrow. And what about the k, or the h and k value for that matter? The h is what? 0. So you technically know your vertex, your h value is 0, your k value is what? Negative 1. So what does this look like? Well, you know it's the vertex is at 0. You don't go left, you don't go right. You go down negative 1, you put a dot right there. That's your vertex. And we know that it's opening down because it's negative, and we know that 3 makes it more narrow than usual. So it's narrow, it's opening down. That's a good sketch. Technically you're supposed to be listing your transformations here. So like in algebra 2, this is what you're going to have to do. This parabola got reflected over the x-axis. It got vertically stretched because it got narrow by the factor of 3, and it got shifted 1 unit down. All of those descriptions in a couple of sentences you're going to have to write out in algebra 2. Okay? In algebra 1, on the final exam, the only thing we need to prepare for now is just understanding the a value, how it affects it, the h and k, which is your new vertex, and that way you could identify which graph is the graph that you're looking for. So ladies and gentlemen, like on this one, number 7, which one represents number 7, A, B, or C? A, obviously. So this one belongs to number 7. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, let's talk about number 8 here. What could you tell me about this guy? Let's start with the most important point. What's the vertex? 0, because there is no h value in parentheses with x. Negative 1, because the k value is negative 1. So, I mean, if we did a quick sketch here, does it have a vertex at the origin? No. Where is it at? It's at 0, negative 1, so you put a dot right here. Let's put a dot right there at 0, -1. Okay, after that, let's talk. Does this parabola open up or down? How do you know whether it opens up or down? Up, because the a value is positive, and technically the a value is 1/3, right? So we know it's opening up because it's positive. Now, what does the 1/3 actually do to it? Besides being positive and opening up, does the 1/3 make it narrower, or does it make it wider? It makes it wider, right? Wider than normal. So number 8, knowing that it's wider, knowing that it's opening up, and knowing that your vertex is at 0, -1, which one does it have to be? Number 8 has to be C, right? Whoa, sorry. Number 8 has to be C. This one, number 8 has to be C. And obviously, B has to be 9, but let's understand why. What if I asked you, find me the vertex of this guy? There is no H value, 0, and the K value is +1. That's your new vertex, okay? So if I were to go to an XY plane, we know that the vertex is at 0, +1, right here. And we know that the A value is +3, which means, does it open up or down? Opens up, perfect, okay? And is it gonna be wide opening up or narrower opening up, or regular size? Narrower. Why? Because it's a 3, it stretches it. So your parabola, you already have a great description of it, pretty narrow, actually even more narrow, I think. And if you match it up here, yeah, you'll see that it's pretty narrow and it's opening up at the vertex 0, 1. So I hope this gives you a better understanding, a better preparation to be able to identify the correct answers on the multiple choice test on the final. But as for listing the actual transformations, like in sentences, this is what we were supposed to be doing, but in Algebra 2, we're going to do this a lot. For example, this is what I would say about this parabola, number 6. The original parabola, the parent graph, would first get reflected over the x-axis, and then it would get vertically stretched by the factor of 3, which makes it narrower, and it also gets shifted 4 units to the left. Why 4 units to the left? Because if my vertex is -4, 0, from the origin 0, 0, to get to the -4, 0, it gets shifted 4 units to the left. That's what we do in Algebra 2. That's just a little taste, right? But in reality, for the final exam in Algebra 1, all we need to do is to be able to look at it and say, oh, this one opens up, it's pretty narrow, the vertex is 0, 1, and you'll be able to identify pretty narrow, opening up, vertex 0, 1. You'll be able to identify the correct answer on your final exam. I hope this helps.